Here's another how to do something in Google Docs video. This week we're focusing on solving systems by substitution. So I'm just going to kind of show you how we expect you to show your work in Google Docs. So here's an example of something that you might get. Obviously something we give you will probably have way more problems to it. The first example is an example where the first equation is in the form of y equals, so it's already set up for substitution. So I'm going to put that first equation in my second equation. So I don't have to use the equation editor here. I found it a little more tedious to do it that way. So I'm actually just going to type regular numbers and plus and minus using the plus symbol and the dash. If you want to use the equation editor, by all means, go ahead and do so. At this point, we really only need that if we're dealing with like fractions or exponents, but we're not dealing with any of that right now, so we can kind of let that go for a little bit. So the first one I'm going to have is just 3x plus 2 parentheses, always use parentheses when you substitute, 2x plus 8 equals 9. When I distribute that, I get this little equation, combine my like terms. Now this stuff is not hard to type. This is where the showing work gets a little tricky. My next step here would be to minus 16 from both sides. If you don't want to show that step, you don't really have to. If you want to do it out on paper and then copy it into the Google Docs, you can like kind of leave that step out. If you did want to show that step, I'm going to hit the space bar a couple times to line my work up. And then to show minus 16, I'm just going to hit dash 16. And I want to do the same thing under the 9, so I'm going to hit the space bar, dash 16, hit enter. Now normally we draw a horizontal line here. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to hit the dash sign a bunch of times to kind of make that my horizontal line. So now I can write what I end up with, which is 7x equals negative 7. My next step here would be to show that I need to divide by 7. So again, horizontal line, hit that dash key a couple times, space bar, dash key a couple times, enter. Negative 7, space, 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 negative 7, enter. I get x equals, oops, I don't know why I'm dividing by negative 7. It should be positive 7, sorry. So x equals negative 1. And you can space it out how you want. I like to put some extra spaces in there to kind of make it look a little better and not as squished, but that's totally up to you. So I've got my x equals negative 1, and I can change the color of that if I want. And then I can keep working vertically if I want to. So I need to find my y value now. So I'm going to say y equals negative 1, 2 times negative 1 plus 8, work down, y equals negative 2 plus 8, that's y equals 6. So my solution as a point x comma y is negative 1, 6. I like to make my solution a different color and highlight it so that it's clearly visible. And then I would check that in both equations. I'll show you how to check that here. So I would get 6 equals 2 times negative 1 plus 8. This time I'm using spaces, before I didn't. Again, it really doesn't matter. So I get 6 equals 6. So that worked in that one. Remember, we always want to check in both. Sometimes it won't work in both, and that means you made a mistake. 2 times 6 equals 9. So I get negative 3 plus 12 equals 9. 9 equals 9. And I'm good to go there. My solution is correct. So that's if you already have something in the form that can be substituted. You don't have to do anything really extra. Just sub it in and make that work out. In this second example, I don't have something x equals or y equals, so I need to create it. So I'm going to do that by solving the second equation for y. The way I'm going to show that, I'm going to hit the space bar a couple times. I'm going to minus x from both sides. So I'm going to minus x from there, minus x from here. Remember, to get that horizontal line, I just hit the dash key. Hit enter. Y equals negative x minus 5. Now I have something that I can sub in. So I'm going to go into my first equation, 3x minus 2 parentheses negative x minus 5 equals 0. careful when you're distributing that negative. Oops, I don't know why I just turned blue. But I get plus 2x plus 10 equals 0. And you could solve all of that out. When you do, actually I'll do it out for you. So I get 5x plus 10 equals 0. Remember to show minus 10, I'm just going to hit dash 10, dash 10, dash key to show that horizontal line. 5x equals negative 10. Again, dash key to get any type of horizontal line you want. 5, x equals negative 2. I have to get my y value. I can keep working vertically if I want, but I can also work horizontally. It might be a little more tedious to do that, but it's up to you. So I'm going to plug back into the original. So I'm going to have negative 2 plus y equals negative 5. Now don't hit enter here, because if you do, it's going to create a space back in your original. So click on the next line and then space bar it out. And this is what I mean by it can be tedious to do it this way. So if you just want to work completely horizontally, that's fine. It's kind of at this point up to you, as long as you are showing us some work. I get y equals negative 3. And my solution would be negative 2 comma negative 3. And I'm not going to show you how to check because I showed you in the last one, and I think you guys can figure it out from here. So showing work in Google Docs is not that bad. Again, if you use the equation editor, a little more tedious. You don't have to. If you have questions, stop by and ask us a question during office hours.